We had decided to take a train from Athens to Vienna. The journey would take about 24 hours, with one transfer in Budapest. When we arrived at the station in Budapest, there was an air of menace that pervaded. I got that feeling when I walked past certain homeless people. You know the type: unshaven, unkempt hair, vacant eyes. Well, here they were all congregated in front of the station, waiting for people to ask them for money. It made me very uncomfortable. We bought our tickets online and went through the gate. It was some time before our train was due to leave, so we went to find somewhere to sit. As we walked along the platform, it became clear why these people were hanging around here. All of the train carriages were covered in graffiti. Some of it was pretty vile. I won't go into details, but you can imagine what homeless people with too much time on their hands would write. We found a carriage at the end of the train that didn't seem to have any graffiti, and we sat down. Now, if you've ever been on a European train, you'll know that they don't really lock the doors. There's just a little clasp that you can do up to stop people opening them. It's more of a suggestion than anything else. The train left and we started watching the graffiti-covered carriages roll by. After about half an hour, the lights flickered and died. We sat in darkness for about 5 minutes listening to the train clattering along the tracks. Then the doors opened, and 2 hooded figures got in the carriage. They sat opposite us without saying a word. Now, even though it wasn't locked, the door was closed. But these 2 managed to open it without disturbing the clasps. They spoke in some sort of guttural language. One turned to us and said something. I couldn't understand what he said, but his tone was aggressive. He stood up, came over to us, and started aggressively gesturing for us to move seats. I told him no in halting, broken Hungarian, which he didn't seem to understand. I don't think he expected anyone to be able to speak it. He looked like a huge, burly biker type, maybe 6'3" in solid muscle. His face was covered in tattoos, and his hood was pulled low so we couldn't see his face. His companion was smaller and slighter, but still imposing. He was mumbling something constantly. My girlfriend and I exchanged panicked glances. I took out my phone and turned on the torch, hoping that the light would deter them. They didn't seem to care. They kept gesturing for us to move and getting more agitated. I guess they thought that we understood them and were just being stubborn. They started grabbing at our stuff, pulling at my jacket and yanking my girlfriend's hairbrush off the table. She screamed and pushed the guy away. That seemed to agitate them further, and they both started shouting and swearing at us. I grabbed my bag and moved seats. Still not understanding what they wanted, my girlfriend followed me, albeit more slowly. As we shifted places, I noticed that the door had once again been pushed open. Great. Just great. We were sitting in near darkness, and the only sound was the incessant chatter of the train. Suddenly, we heard screams from down the train. They were female screams, loud and distressed. The couple in the next seat got up and ran out of the carriage, pushing past us into the darkness. We heard commotion and then silence. My girlfriend and I looked at each other, pale as ghosts. Then we heard footsteps coming closer and closer. Heavy footsteps. They stopped outside the door, and then it opened. A large man with a shaved head and a small girl stepped in. The girl was crying, and the man was shouting in Hungarian. He saw us, and his eyes narrowed. Now, obviously, we didn't want to stay in that carriage alone with these people who clearly didn't want us there. So we got up and tried to make our way out of the carriage. The man stepped in front of us, blocking our exit. I told him in broken English that we just wanted to change carriages. He replied in kind. I understood him perfectly. He was saying that we couldn't pass, that we had to go back to our seats, and that the train was full. I started to panic. What did he mean? Was he trying to keep us in this carriage? Was that why he'd let his daughter out? Did he want it to be just him, his wife, and us in this carriage? Why? What was he planning? My girlfriend tugged at my sleeve, desperate for me to come up with a solution. I thought quickly and told him that we needed to use the bathroom. I pointed to the toilets at the end of the carriage and tried to push past him. He grabbed my arm and pulled me back. I winced as his fingernails dug into my flesh. They were long and filthy. He asked me where I was from. I told him America. He spat on the floor and said, "Americans." He gestured with his chin for me to sit back down. I did, but my girlfriend stayed rooted to the spot, tears streaming down her face. I don't think she realized how dangerous this situation was. The man turned his attention to her and repeated what he had said to me, but this time it was in English. He told her that Americans are stupid. We should have known better than to come here. He kept saying Americans, Americans. He called his daughter over and told her something. She shook her head sadly and got back into her seat. Then the man turned back to my girlfriend. This is going to sound weird, but he leaned in close and whispered something in my girlfriend's ear. I don't know what he said, but the look on my girlfriend's face told me everything I needed to know. He'd just threatened her. He stood up and went to the window. I asked him to calm down, that we didn't mean any disrespect. He turned around, his face contorted with rage. He grabbed my shirt and pulled me close. His breath smelled like stale waste and decay. I could feel his hot, fetid breath on my skin. He hissed in my ear, telling me that I shouldn't have come here, that I was lucky to be alive. Then he spat on the floor again and stalked back to his seat. I sank back into the seat, defeated. What could we do? How could we escape this nightmare? I looked over at my girlfriend. She was white as a sheet, her eyes wide with terror. She mouthed the words, "What do we do?" I didn't know what to say. I was scared for both of us. The train screeched to a halt, and the carriage lurched violently. The man shouted something at his daughter, and she got up and ran out of the carriage. He followed her, leaving us alone in the darkness. We didn't move. We didn't breathe. We just waited. Then the doors slid open and the man reappeared. His daughter was with him, and in her hand was a heavy-looking suitcase. The man gestured for us to move so that we could get out of the carriage. I didn't want to move. I was frozen with fear. But my girlfriend tugged at my arm and urged me to comply. The man shoved me hard in the chest and I stumbled out of the carriage. He grabbed the suitcase and started walking away. His daughter was skipping ahead of him, oblivious to the turmoil that she had caused. They disappeared into the darkness, and we didn't see them again. We never did figure out what they wanted or why they'd taken that girl onto the train. To this day, I still wonder what that man would have done if we hadn't moved seats. Perhaps he would have attacked us in the middle of the night and dragged us out of the train to be murdered in some godforsaken field in the middle of nowhere. Anyway, sorry for the shorter video today, but thank you all so much for listening. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Bye.